Okay, now we're going to go through our second example of the cash analysis. This one we're doing with Costco. And it doesn't say Costco up here, but I assure you this is Costco. So we're going to start by seeing what is the variance we're explaining. And the variance is an increase of 2,329. Again, this is in millions, so it's 2.3 billion and 27.78%. Okay, so now I'm going to go to my statement of cash flows, and I'm going to just make this smaller so that we have some room. Okay, so I'm going to start with my operations, and that is actually, oh, it's up here. Okay, so we have 6.3 billion that was in cash flow that was generated from operations. And like we did last time, let's go ahead and just highlight what we've used. Okay, so now we're going to go to the investing section. And it looks like we have a net increase of 137 from short-term investments. Again, we're going to net these two together because the purchases and the maturities makes sense to net them together, because with these short-term investments, which we also call marketable securities, we are going to be buying and selling them as we need cash or as we have excess cash. So we're going to net them together. So net proceeds from short-term investments, and that's going to end up being $137 million. And normally, I know I told you before we don't include some of the smaller amounts, but because there's big swings either way, I'm going to go ahead and include it. All right, so we've included those. So we're just going to highlight them. All right, then we have additions to property and equipment, which is really fixed asset purchases. So we're going to call that, I think in the Oracle one, we call them capital expenditures. You just want to say additions to property and equipment because that's what it says on the statement of cash flows. That is totally fine. All right, so that is an outflow. And I'm going to put some color on that. All right, so that's our investing activities. Now we're going to go down to our financing activities. So I'm going to start with this big one here, and that's dividends. And let me see. Let's see how close that gets us, because everything else we have is kind of little ins and outs. And if I can skip doing those, I will. But let's move me so that we can sum this. All right, so that takes us to 2457. The number we're going for is this 2329. Remember, 2329 was our variance, and that's what it says the net change in cash is. So I'm going to go ahead and call this close enough. And in fact, if we got rid of this 137, that's going to get us really close. But I'd kind of like to keep that, so I'm going to. But the rest of us, we've got a couple $100 million in, couple $100 million out. I'm going to go ahead and skip that because they're pretty small amounts. And this tells the big part of the story. What are the big things that change cash? All right. So this one was a little simpler than Oracle. And I'm going to go over to my cash analysis for Costco. And I'm just going to paste this down here. We'll link to the spreadsheet. Okay. So I'm going to put up here Costco cash analysis. And then again, I'm going to start with my increase or decrease. And we know that cash increased. So I'm going to say cash increased by, I'm going to go back here. Oops, that's Oracle. Got to make sure we have our right financial statements. Okay. So cash increased by 2.3 billion, and we're just going to call this 28%. We can go ahead and round that. So what do we say? 2.3 by 2.3 billion and 28%. Primarily due to, remember we're saying primarily due to, and that indicates to the user we haven't accounted for every single dollar, but these are the big reasons. Primarily due to says, here's the big things you need to know about. Okay, And so we're going to start this time with our increases because overall cash increased. Remember with the Oracle example, overall cash decreased, so we list our decreases first. But here in this case with Costco, cash increased, so we're going to list our increases first. And our big increase is operations, so we're going to say primarily due to cash flow from operations of 6.4 billion, I'll round that up, and net proceeds from short-term investments of 137 million. And then now it's time to list our decreases. So remember we say partially offset by, and that tells us now those increases of basically about 6.5 billion. That's a lot more than our actual increase. So there must be some sort of an offsetting decrease. And so it's partially offset by the, I'm not being a very good typer, am I? Purchase of fixed assets for 3 billion. We're going to go ahead and just round that up. And the payment of dividends of 1 billion. All right. So we've explained about a 6.5 billion increase offset by a 4 billion decrease. So that's going to give us about 2.5. So we're off by about $200 million, and that's going to be close enough. All right. So this paragraph here. This is what I need you to turn in. If you want to include this down here, you are absolutely more than welcome to. It would probably be helpful for me to pick out what, if there's some sort of mistake that you're going to want to correct for your final report, but it's not necessary. So really, your submission will just be that one paragraph. Make sure you start it with cash increased by or cash decreased by. All right, so that is your second and final example, and I'll see you next time. All right.